Underwriting deals is such a major pain point for people. Most don't want to do it, and the people that are good at it are few and far between. That is why after 6 years of being in the industry and buying over 1,200 apartments, using my best-selling multifamily deal analyzer, I created Real Estate Lab, a full suite acquisition software for multifamily investors. We have built a product that helps investors automate their acquisitions and close more deals, all in a cloud-based platform. You can go to realestatelab.com and sign up today using the promo code TAG2 for 10% off your first 12 months. This is David Tupin. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to The Apartment Gurus, where twice a week, host Tate Siemer brings you deep dive interviews with the wisest gurus in the apartment investing industry. These experts are sure to create game-changing value and inspiration designed to catapult your business to the next level. Be sure to reach out to Tate at www.investwithgreenlight.com for access to his investor portal and Calendly link. And now, here is Tate Siemer and the Apartment Gurus.
Welcome, everybody, back. Another episode of the Apartment Gurus podcast coming at you right now. And I'm really stoked about this episode today. We have a go-getter on the show that's really making things happen, both on the passive side and the active side of multifamily investing. His name is Mr. Will Harvey, based in Northern Virginia. And Will is, well, first of all, he's been married. He got married in 2021, just last year, to his bride, Sarah. And he started buying real estate in 2016, focused on this in the single family space. That sounds familiar. Until 2018, when he pivoted to multifamily. And then he's invested in 8 or 9 passive multifamily syndications and also a handful on the GP side. So he was LP on 8 or 9, and then he's got a couple on the GP side. And then he's most recently got into the hospitality space. And he's invested about $100,000 himself over the past couple of years in early stage startups. So you mean startup companies, I'm assuming?
Yep. Early technology companies. Yep. Exactly.
Very cool. Very cool.
Some real estate, but really sector agnostic, all kinds of different stuff.
Check this out, listeners. He's got so many units under ownership. He doesn't even know how many. He's saying
stop it.
Likely around 700 or 800. So, when you invest passively, you don't necessarily count things that way, but he's involved with a lot of properties. And do you mind me asking you how old you are, Will?
I'm 20. I turned 29.
Yeah,
a couple months ago. Yeah,
you look young, and to do what you've done at that age, man, like so many listeners on this show would just love to be where you are and love to have done what you've done and at the age that you've done it. So I'm really excited to dig into this with you and hear about how you've done what you've done. And so if you would, Will, for the listeners and for myself, just kind of provide a little more color into your background, your story, like how you got to where you are today and doing what you're doing. And would love to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. And first off, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's an honor and pleasure, and I'm really looking forward to getting into all this stuff. But like you talked about, I started buying, I bought my first property in 2016, but prior to that, I feel like I need to give a little bit more context. So prior to that, I graduated high school in 2011, and I went to college at the University of South Carolina, and I got pretty heavily involved in drugs and alcohol. And I ended up actually January 1st, 2013, coming home from, I came home, I was home on break, but I made the decision to not go back to school, to focus on getting sober and stopping all of that. And, and that was one of the most important decisions I ever made, and really has been what's allowed me to do everything that I've done since then. And I really leaned into my faith in Jesus Christ. I'm a Christian, and it's definitely part of my story and why I'm here doing what I'm doing today. So fast forward a couple years later, end of 2015, I start in the mortgage business, and I learned the business for about a year. In 2017 was my first year in origination, and I did well. It was cool. It was fun, and it was it was definitely making more money than I had ever dreamed of making prior to that. And but I just in 2018, I got to the point where I had bought 2 or 3 houses, and I just saw this. I just felt like I was on this hamster wheel where I was making a high, W-2 salary, but there was really no light at the end of the tunnel. There was no wealth being grown other than the properties that I had purchased. Everything I was doing within the company I was at was, it was for someone else's benefit, and someone else was getting extremely wealthy. And I'm extremely grateful for that opportunity. And that really provided capital to springboard me into what I'm doing today. So I'm extremely grateful. And, it was an awesome experience. I learned tons about the lending world, and that definitely helps me today. And, it was great, but I knew that I needed to get out of it. So at the end of 2019, 2018 was really when I set my sights on getting out and focusing on real estate full time. And then at the end of 2019, I let all my licenses expire in that business. And then I was on my own starting in 2020, right when COVID happened.
Great timing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And simultaneously in 2019, that's when I got involved in, late 2019, early 2020 was when I got involved, like you said, in a few syndications as on the GP side of things. And then after that, once COVID hit, I was working with a few others in a group called CEO Capital Partners. I don't know if I think we mutually know Stuart. Stuart Dukeman. Yeah. But anyways, he's doing awesome stuff, and, wish him and his group nothing but success. But
shout out to Stuart.
Yeah, absolutely. Stuart's awesome. And, we all pretty much decided to go separate directions once COVID hit. And we still manage everything that we're doing and our involvement in those 3 deals that I'm a GP in. But from there, I focused on my day-to-day money that I was making was from house flipping. And then I was funneling all that money into apartments, syndications. I did 1 mobile home park deal, but I really funneled it all into these syndicates as a limited partner. I also sold my single family houses, and I just poured it all into LP deals because, one, I think the risk adjusted return for apartments in particular are, better than anything
phenomenal.
I've ever seen. Yeah. And then also when you factor in the tax benefits with cost seg studies and the bonus depreciation, which, by the way, phases out. I believe it starts to phase out next year. Yeah. So, I was just, any money that I made, for the most part, my expenses are real low. So any money I made, I would funnel into these various LP deals. And it's been fantastic. And I've really, really enjoyed that. A few have gone full cycle. So that's been cool to see. And, that's also allowed me to, because I'm a full-time real estate investor per the IRS code, I'm able to take those passive losses and use it to offset my income from the house flipping. So it's really a cool, it's a cool thing there. So then I don't know if you want to, touch on any of that, but that's great stuff. So, just to back up, when you were originating loans, were those are residential loans, I'm assuming? Yep. Just the regular, Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA, those are the primary ones. And that's it. So, that's an interesting place to start on the multifamily path. Obviously you didn't know you were going multifamily, but I always encourage people to consider working in the industry
in some capacity to learn the industry. And so, whether you're working for a broker or, working for a lender, kind of as an apprentice or property manager, et cetera, like these are really great ways of learning the business and, getting into a space that you gain some skills and gives you a way to powerfully move forward.
I completely agree.
Yeah, cool. So I'm curious what kind of steered you towards the multifamily space? Was there kind of an aha moment at any point?
Yeah, there was, and that's a great question. So I like I said, I got to the point where I had 3 houses that I was renting, and one of them was I was doing half Airbnb, half rental, and it was just it got to the point where I was using all my own money, and I realized that it just didn't seem that scalable to me. So I actually was not seeking out multifamily. I started listening to a podcast. I think it was a Bigger Pockets podcast back in early 2018 when I believe I had acquired either my second or third house. And this is in Northern Virginia, by the way, where I'm paying, one of the townhouses I bought was $415,000. So it's not like I was buying little $30,000 houses. They were not cheap, and they every time I would do that, I would be out of cash. So anyways, I started listening to this Bigger Pockets podcast about getting more efficient with vetting prospective tenants and just how that all works and screening people and just putting systems in place. And I think one of the related podcasts was a Michael Blanc episode. And I just I had no intention of getting into multifamily, but whatever the title of the episode was caught my attention, and I started listening. And within I see, maybe it was longer this, but it felt like within a minute I was hooked, and I was like, this is what I've been looking for. Yeah. This sounds really cool. And it's much more scalable. The whole idea where you have 100 doors under one roof, one central location, as opposed to a bunch of different houses spread out all over the place with a different roof, a different insurance policy for each one, just a lot more moving pieces and headaches. It just made so much more sense to go the apartment route with the scale efficiencies and all that. So to answer your question, that was sort of the aha moment. From then, I never bought another house, and like I said, ended up selling the ones I had. And so that's I love that story. And Michael Blanc has been such a massive influencer on so many people. I've been to his conference, I think 3 or 4 times now, and it's a great Dealmaker Live. It's a great conference. I recommend it to everybody to go. It's usually in June or July, and it's a great event for as far as the speakers go. It's really great for networking and meeting people. I met one of my partners there in 2019, and I think it's so cool that you really remember that moment vividly, and I think all of us do, like, remember that aha moment, because there's something almost magical about it. Like, as far as like something grabs you, and it's like it really resonates inside of you, and that's when that there's something to pay attention to there. And I love that within a minute of the conversation, you were hooked. And that's just a sign of like, wow, this is a direction I should really consider going down. And you kind of followed the calling and went that direction, and look where you are now. Like, that's super exciting to me. It's a great story. I appreciate it. Yeah, it was definitely, I remember it was somewhere around that time. I was, I'd been talking to my parents about what I'm doing, and they knew I had bigger aspirations than to be a loan officer. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it just was what it was. And I had been talking to them about all that. And I just remember a conversation with my mom after really diving into and digesting some of the multifamily stuff and just starting to learn about it. And I was just like, this is so amazing. This is what I want to do. This is, and it was just cool. And like you said, I vividly remember that. And I remember where I was, and it was pretty neat.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing today. Like what is your focus, your primary focus today and in moving forward?
Yeah, primary focus. So as of this year, I have this family friend that him and I have known each other for probably 15 years. He's a little bit older than me. He's about 5 years older than me. So we never went to high school or anything together, but I knew his brothers. They were closer to me. And him and we've talked occasionally. I knew he was doing some cool stuff down in Florida a few years ago. He started a property management company and then was also buying some properties himself and running them as short-term rentals just on Airbnb and VRBO and those types of places. And so we sort of stayed in touch. And then this year his dad actually put us in touch and we ended up getting lunch. And he was basically like, I'm starting to uncover more and more properties that make sense, but I don't really have the network, the capital raising network that you have. And not that I have a big one, but I had more than him. So, that was the piece of the puzzle that he didn't have. And whereas I didn't have the deal flow. So we just, we talked about it and we were like, yeah, if any opportunities come up, give me a shout. If it's interesting, I'll get involved and we can partner on it. And I think it was not even a week later. I mean, how a lot of those meetings you talk and then you plan to conquer the world and then you never talk to the person after that. Yeah. And this one was very interesting because not even a week later, he called me and he was like, hey, I got an opportunity. It's this property. It actually came on the market, but the guy, they listed it. It's a commercial property. It's a short-term rental, 7 unit in. And the guy listed it with just a residential Remax agent who had no idea how to peg the value based on the income and cap rate. And they just listed it sort of based on the square footage and comps, like a residential property. And it was crazy undervalued. So he went out, gave him a full price offer and they accepted it. And then I think afterwards they were a little bit like, hey, they came to us and they were like, hey, if you have any intention of backing out, please let us know. Cause we have multiple backup offers in hand well above where you guys are. So that was pretty cool. And we ended up purchasing this property and we partnered. I was responsible for bringing the capital to the table and managing the investors. And it's been great. We closed on that one in May. And this Friday, our pictures are being done after our remodel was complete. And next week it should go live and it should be a really cool, it should be a really good one. So we're thrilled about that one. Mm-hmm.
That's great. So how many units was that?
That one is a 7-unit hospitality. So it's okay. On the smaller side when it comes to, stuff you're doing, but, but it definitely has a lot of room for raising the NOI. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For the upside. Yeah. Couldn't think of the word.
Yeah. So what's the biggest deal you guys have done?
We have one under contract right now and we're not closed. It's under contract, but this one is actually, it's a wedding venue and then it's got 10 rentable rooms on it as well. And that would far and away be the biggest one. And that was a real interesting off market deal. And then we close on another one this Friday. So we have some cool stuff that we're working on right now.
What's the purchase price on the wedding venue? Just curious.
It's around 2 million.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Great. So let's talk a little bit about your model and kind of, how are you sourcing these projects and, how are you finding them and what you're buying, your buying guide, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, to go back into your world, like I said, I made the decision to go into multifamily. I was still in the mortgage business, and I really leaned into the broker route.
Yep.
I never had any success. And I really think it was not, it was not God's will or whatever for me to do that. I've found in the years since then that I'm definitely better equipped on the capital raising side of things. And I would just say to anybody that is getting into this and is struggling and kind of banging their head against the wall, trying to find deals or whatever, I would just say that, figure out what you're good at. I was certainly, I see my partner now, and he's just so much more. It's hard to describe. He just has this natural ability to work with sellers. And I don't think let's just put it this way. I don't think I'm not a personable person or anything like that, but he is 10 times better at it than I am. And conversely, he hates going out and talking to investors and doing that whole thing. Whereas I enjoy it. And I love talking numbers, and I enjoy doing all that. So it's just a perfect yin and yang situation where his strengths complement my weaknesses and vice versa. So, anybody out there, I would just say, find a partner or partners and figure out what everybody's good at so that you have all the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah. And again, we talk about this a lot on the show. Like, I call it knowing your superpower, and, know what you're really good at, what you really like to do. Those are typically they're the same thing, right? Like if you're good at it, and you like to do it, if you like to do it, you're going to be good at it. Right. So
exactly.
And then double down on that, like structure your team or your company structure around your superpowers and your partner's superpowers, to really maximize everybody's talents and natural abilities. And that way you're really setting yourself up for success doing that. And most importantly, you're not doing things inside the business that you don't like to do, which just kind of kills everything. It'll kill your momentum. It'll kill your mindset. Man, when I get into something in our business, like I'm CEO of the company, and so I kind of have my hands in everything. And when I get my hands in like our accounting piece, for instance, dude, my brain shuts off. I'm just not good at it at all. And luckily my partner, Carl York, is great at that stuff. And I'm a visionary. I'm a lead from the front kind of guy and big picture guy. And the minutia of some of that stuff would really hinder my capability to do what I do well.
So not to mention, it's just a poor quality of life doing stuff that you hate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Exactly. I love Gary Vaynerchuk, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I love his concept of at the end of the day, it's all about being happy.
Yeah.
And he talks about, he's got friends that make $60,000 a year. They play on 7 softball teams. They go on 1 vacation a year, and they're the happiest people he knows. Yeah. And that's coming from job satisfaction, and it's coming from doing something well. And, there's a study that I read recently about specifically job satisfaction and this idea of following your bliss and doing what you love. And it was interesting because it kind of went contrary to what I was thinking, which was, it's not necessary. The people that have the highest level of job satisfaction aren't necessarily people that have followed their bliss, which is kind of like the myth that we have.
Mm-hmm.
They're the people that have done something they're good at and have achieved mastery in that space. And I think it's really that game right there, like getting to a place of mastery over what you do. Nothing feels better than that. And, to master something, you got to love it. And, it's kind of pretty informing for me.
I completely agree. I think once you get good at something and you're in the zone and you really you're just getting better at it, and you can feel that you're getting better at it and improving, whether it's golf or or whatever, fill in the
It's
blank.
not golf for me, dude. Oh my gosh.
Well, not for me either. I'm actually about to get lessons because I enjoy it, but I'm at the same time want to get better and enjoy it more.
That's just it. I mean, that's actually a great example of like golf's a beautiful sport. You're doing cool stuff. You're hanging out with people that you love, and you're in a beautiful environment. And yet, for me personally, like I don't have even close to the level of mastery or even like competence in what I'm doing out there that I get much satisfaction out of it. So I basically have quit golf. Like, and I'm where you are. Like, if I'm going to play, I'm going to go get lessons and get a lot better than where I am now, because I just can't stand going out and not being good at something for fun.
That's exactly where I'm at. I would always go out there and, shank balls and just play very inconsistent. I'd par this hole and then I'd triple bogey the next one. And I just got sick and tired of that. And I was like, why am I getting angry when I hit a bad shot? I never practice this. I have no reason to be upset. I'm not practicing this. I shouldn't be, I either need to stop getting upset and just realize that, I'm just going to go out here and hang out with some buddies and that's going to be that. Or I need to actually focus on getting better and deliberately trying to improve my game by getting lessons and do all that stuff. And I decided to choose the latter.
Well, you're probably, I know you are wired a lot like me, where we're all about performance, and like seeing ourselves perform is very satisfying, and we really go for it. And so we're not used to going out and trying something and not doing it well in spite of everything we're trying to do. And golf is a great teacher that way. I think it's a great metaphor for life. I have jokingly said, like, it's the only thing that I do for fun that makes me feel bad about myself.
So good.
Yeah. And like, it's like, why am I doing this? And so for those of us that are wired this way, we got to go out and get lessons and get better, because otherwise we're just not going to enjoy it. And it's a shame not to enjoy golf, because, dude, I was playing golf with my 95-year-old grandpa when, before he passed away, and he would ride in the cart and just come out on the green and putt every hole. And dude, that's like those memories are priceless.
Yeah.
Like, it almost brings a tear to my eye to think about that. What a quality way to hang out with somebody and get to spend time together and do the same thing. Like, what else am I going to do with a 95-year-old grandpa that we both can do and enjoy? And golf is a blessing. It's a gift. But
yeah, I agree.
I have a love-hate relationship with him.
You and me both, man.
That's awesome. So let's talk about kind of where you're headed. So do you guys have a vision? You have goals? What are your, what's your structure in terms of what you're doing moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sort of in the background. I'm also doing, I started a fund after I had a few years under my belt in the passive space, using my own money in these different multifamily deals. I actually this year started a fund to invest my own money along with outside investors into different deals, strictly in a limited partner position. So I'm working on that, but like I was saying, the main focus is definitely on our is on these hospitality projects. And one thing that we want to get into, that my partner in that space, he has some uncles that own these types of properties, and there's a lot of reasons to look into them, and I'm extremely interested. And right now I'm sort of at the place where I'm trying to educate myself, and I really like to be not necessarily become an expert, but before I dive into something, I want to become a student. I really want to learn it. I want to understand, every angle of it. And then I want to get into it so that I'm not doing something that, that I'm not qualified to do, if that makes sense. Right. And that's light industrial or flex industrial, where there's a, the back of it. Again, I'm very new to this. So if I sound very rudimentary describing this, it's because I have a lack of knowledge here and I'm really just leaning on my partner. He has much more knowledge on this, but we want to get into developing these light industrial properties where people have a space for, there's a warehouse space, and then in the front there can also be an office space. So you sort of solve the whole, there's a storefront, so it's like a retail space. But now with COVID, everything is going online.
Totally.
And and places are having to fulfill orders and ship their products, where 3 years ago they didn't have to. Pre-COVID, people got away. And as we're seeing with office and retail, we're definitely in a changing world right now. So we're just wanting to get into those types of properties and actually develop them ourselves, where we'd buy the land and build them. So that's Smart. More a longer term thing. But for right now, we're focused on these hospitality properties, and we've sort of came up with a good game plan and a good formula to add value and make money for everyone, for the investors and for us. So it's pretty cool.
Well, have you read the book Vivid Vision by chance, or do you know of it?
No, I haven't even heard of it.
Cameron Herold, HEROLD. It's a fantastic book, and your sharing made me think of it. It's all about, it's kind of a guidebook to creating your own vivid vision, which is a 3-year vision or plan as to where you're headed, what you're going to do. You write it as if you're describing it in the present day. So it's really forward thinking, and it kind of takes all the pieces that you just touched on and solidifies it in one solid, coherent plan and vision for your future. And it's very detailed, and it replaces your mission statement and your vision statement.
That's cool.
And just made me think, I think all of us should do this. And we've done it at Greenlight.
What's it called? I'm going to write it down.
Yeah. Called Vivid Vision.
Vivid Vision. Okay.
By Cameron Herold. And it's not a long read. It's pretty short, and and there's some great YouTube videos that are interviews with him on it. And so I recommend, getting some context from those.
Cool.
And
absolutely.
So, just something I thought of while you were sharing, but,
I completely agree with all that stuff, and just trying to game plan how you're going to get there and breaking it up into little pieces. I think that's really important to do.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So, if there is, your story's is very interesting. Anybody, this is going to sound bad. Anybody can become a lender, right? Or an originator, just my belief is anybody can become a realtor.
I was a double college dropeout.
There you go. There you go.
Never graduated. So yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So, and it's just the lesson there is that's one way of getting into this space. Right. So, you've got a really good story. If there's anything that you could go back and tweak or change or redirect, what would that be?
Oh man, anything? That is a good question and a loaded question.
Yeah. Well, I get that. Yeah. And it's interesting as entrepreneurs, our mindset is that in my opinion, a good mindset is that everything is perfect. Everything happens the way it needs to. And we make mistakes and we fail forward, right? That's the game. And so, sometimes those mistakes can be the greatest teachers and greatest, momentum builders to push you forward.
So true.
So I don't necessarily believe in regrets. But there's a few things I would go back and add to our plan. I would have hired a capital raising technical consultant that would have built our system and all that stuff to fast track that, and just a few things. I mean, there's nothing I would really of substance that I would totally change or regret or anything like that. But So yeah, talk a little bit about, look at in retrospect, right? Looking back on your path.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've lost money. There was this venture that I got involved with a couple years ago and lost 30 grand on that. And then I've lost money where I put money into this deal and it was under contract and paid an attorney a ton of money. And that was my lesson on billable hours. So, I mean, there's tons of mini things like that I look back, but I really don't regret, like you said, I don't regret any of them. I learned way more from my failures and there are plenty. I learned way more from my failures than my successes. But what I would say that I would change if I were looking back is more a mindset thing. I was and I've always been this way since I was a little kid. Whenever I want something, whether it be a dirt bike or a new toy or whatever, I want it now, and I'm going to do everything I can to get it as soon as I can. And I just think you can talk to Stuart. He just told me to slow down multiple times, that I was just trying to run and gun and always chasing the next thing. And I just, looking back, I just need to slow down, trust the process, know that relationships are not built overnight, partnerships are not built overnight. And, getting into multifamily certainly for me did not happen overnight. And I think that changing my mentality there and just reminding myself, this is going to take some time, play the long game, do all that would have been more helpful at the time. And it was just like very chaotic in my brain at that time that I was getting started. I just remember that.
Yeah, I got you on that. And I'm the same way, dude. If I want something, I want it right away. For me, one of the best teachers the last couple of years has been, I ordered I go camping all the time out here and mountain biking and all that stuff. And I ordered a little teardrop camper from this company out here in Utah that it took them a year to build it. And
oh, wow.
Like, I put a bunch of money down on it and then waited and I knew it was going to take that long, but like every time I'd go camping that year, I'd be like, oh God, I wish I had that thing. And it's like, and then it arrived and it's like amazing and life-changing right. And all that stuff. And it's like, it was totally worth the wait. And it was a good teacher for me. And this is like, I think there's some strengths around wanting something right away. Like, there's that whatever it takes attitude of, I'm going to make this happen. And that's a great thing to have as an entrepreneur, in my opinion. But the multifamily space in particular is very much a long game, and you need to adjust your mentality and your mindset to that piece. And these all the relationships you're building are long game relationships, and ideally they are. And that's your power team. That's the people that you're surrounding yourself with that are going to make you successful. So yeah, I mean, I like Stuart's advice to slow down a little bit. And that's not something you hear a lot of coaches say or anybody else, like, but it's really wise.
Yeah. I completely agree with what you're saying. I'm not sitting here saying that you should do everything slow and that you shouldn't have a sense of urgency. I think you should have all that. And I think a sense of urgency is a really good thing. And I know plenty of people without a sense of urgency, and they, struggle to,
they're not getting it done, right?
Success. Yeah, exactly. So I definitely don't think that that's a bad thing, but I think you should constantly be, and wanting to go out and make things happen. That's certainly not bad either. But I just think that reminding yourself, if I can only speak for my situation. And back then, if I would have reminded myself, this is going to take time. This is going to take time. Just remember that. Don't stop working. Don't stop hustling. Don't stop any of that stuff. But just remind yourself that, it's going to take a while.
Yeah. And like, here's a takeaway for you out of this. Like, be less attached to the results, right? Because if you're attached to the result, like, that's going to put you in this, like you said, chaos. It's going to put you in this chaotic mindset, of like, got to get it done now, urgency. And you're going to lose the forest for the trees sometimes. And that's not a good thing. Like, you want to have the big picture in mind. That's why, to me, vivid vision's a great thing to do, because it paints the picture of like the 30,000 foot view that you're in. And dude, good stuff here.
Likewise, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. So, starting to bump up against time here a little bit. Let's kind of bring this full circle. And, you're young, like I don't want to like belabor that, but, in my world, I'm 49 years old, and I've been in this space about 4 years now. So, you've got obviously a lot going for you. You've got a lot of wisdom and a lot of experience now. And you've done it at an early age. So, like,
thank you.
I guess, yeah, you're welcome. So, kind of in looking at all that, there's a lot of people that would love to be where you are right now, at your age or even twice your age. But what would you say to those folks? Like, what wisdom have you gleaned from all this in this experience, this ride that you've been on, that you think is really important to somebody that's kind of starting out on it?
What I would say, and this, like I said, I've made every mistake in the book, but one thing that I've never struggled with and that has come naturally and I think has led to success is that I always am trying to take action. I never educating yourself on something is good, and listening to podcasts is fantastic. I remember back in 2018 when I was starting to learn about apartments, I looked forward to every time I would go drive somewhere because I got to learn, and I called my car my mobile university, and I certainly learned way more there than I ever learned in college. So I think all that is good. I think meetups are good. But we all know the people that have been going to meetups for years and are taking notes at every meetup, but they never go out and do anything. We see those people on Bigger Pockets. We see them at meetups. I'm sure, Tate, that some of those people. And that is paralysis by analysis. And I would say that what has helped me is that I take action, and it might not always be the right action, but if you take action and you say, you know what, I'm going to reach out to this person. I'm going to call this person I met a year ago that indicated that they might have an interest in partnering down the road. I'm going to call them and I'm going to try to nurture that relationship, and I'm going to just move the ball forward a little bit every day. Michael Blanc talks about that, how instead of the whole Grant Cardone, Gary Vaynerchuk, all those gurus, they say take massive action. Michael Blanc says take tiny action, where every day you're just doing a little bit. You're making this phone call, you're emailing this person, and if you just do a little bit and you just are constantly taking small action, it compounds and it grows over time, and it certainly yields it yields dividends, no question.
Yeah. That's great stuff. And taking action is super important, but sometimes it is the little action. Like you always hear this idea of like taking massive action, right? And take massive action, go, take big steps. And like, if you're getting 1% better every day, that's 365% better by the end of the year, and it's compounding. And so it's even more than that. And that's huge. It's way huge. And so what that one conversation a day, if you can make that happen with a strategic partner, an investor, or somebody that can help you with deals or just a colleague that can help you level up. So, really good stuff. And Will, you're a very inspiring guy. Do you ever do any public speaking or anything like that?
I hate public speaking.
Yeah.
I had to talk at my wedding. And man, that whole day I was so nervous. I was more nervous about that than the actual ceremony and, committing myself to my bride forever. I was more nervous about the speech I was having to give afterwards. So no, I actually don't. I'm not a huge fan of public speaking. Well, but I'll do it.
I would encourage you to consider doing some sort of thought leadership, whether it's podcast hosting or YouTube channel or anything like that. Cause you're talented, you're well-spoken, you're good looking, and like those things make a difference. And what I've found is that it just adds a big layer of meaning behind everything else you're doing, because all the business stuff you're doing is now informing your thought leadership, and it just adds this layer of fulfillment that you really can't get anywhere else. It's kind of just being in service, right? Like, so anyway, just a thought for you, but
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. I think you're well cut out for something like that. So, dude, I'm really excited to see, what you do over the next 5, 10 years, 20 years. Like, you've got a big, long runway to make some big things happen. You're getting into some development. You're in the hospitality space, like there's a big future and all of that stuff. And, so I'm very confident you're going to kill it. If there's anything that my team at Greenlight can do for you ever, let us know, and we're here to help you. So, we're really grateful for everything that you shared on the show. Some great takeaways. Listeners, I know you guys got a lot out of this. Hopefully you were taking some mental notes, if not regular notes. But so Will, just thanks a ton for coming on and sharing your stuff with us, kind of opening your playbook up and being really generous with your time and knowledge. And it was a really good 45 minutes or so, hour or so. And I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. I hope that the listeners out there got some bit of value from this. And I really appreciate you having me on and reaching out. And it's been really cool to see everything that you guys have been doing. You guys have been just crushing it. So we're
doing our best.
Yeah, you guys are killing it. So
thank you.
Really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, you betcha. Listeners, we appreciate you and listening to another episode of the Apartment Gurus podcast. And if you got a lot out of this or any other episode, we'd love to have you leave a rating and review. That is super helpful to us and makes a difference in kind of moving the needle in our podcast business. So thanks for listening. And Will, thanks again. And we will see you guys on the next episode of the Apartment Gurus. Take care, everybody.
This has been the Apartment Gurus with Tate Siemer. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. To contact Tate, go to www.investwithgreenlight.com for access to his investor portal and Calendly link. He loves to hear from you and thanks you for being a valued listener. Just a reminder that you are the guru. See you on the next episode of the Apartment Gurus.